Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, CONAIE, denounced the assassination of environmentalist Eduardo Mendua, who led the fight against oil companies exploiting the Amazon. In Italy, at least 63 people died and 80 others were rescued following the shipwreck of a vessel off the coast of Calabria. An Israeli attack on Palestinian communities in the occupied West Bank killed one person, injured at least 100, and burned several homes. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. On Sunday, the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, CONAIE, denounced the assassination of Eduardo Mendua, who led the fight against oil companies exploiting the Amazon. The indigenous organization took to Twitter to denounce the killing of Eduardo Mendua, the head of the international relations belonging to the Cofán people in the province of Sucumbíos. The victim, who was one of the most visible faces of the indigenous resistance, as he had been repeatedly denouncing the actions of the oil companies against the communities, was in his farm when hooded men shot him. CONAIE's president, Leonidas Sisa, held Ecuador's head of state, Guillermo Lasso, as accountable for Mendua's murder and denounced indigenous leaders endure permanent persecution in Ecuador. And on the weekend, 4 people were killed in the municipality of Cartago in the department of Valle del Cauca, eastern Colombia, after gunmen shot at a group watching a football match on television. It appears that the hit-and-run attack was motivated by retaliation, according to Colonel Wilson Roman Silva, deputy commander of the Valle Police. The National Police, together with the Attorney General's office, are already conducting investigations to capture the perpetrators responsible for this unfortunate event, added Roman Silva. The Institute for Development and Peace Studies, which monitors massacres in Colombia, reported that this is the 20th massacre in the South American country during the course of 2023. In Bolivia, cases of dengue fever are beginning to decrease in Santa Cruz, the epicenter of the disease, reported on Sunday the Vice Minister of Health System Management, Álvaro Terrazas. Terrazas highlighted the coordinated work that has been carried out since last week with the 3 levels of government to halt the advance of the disease. He also informed that Saturday's report shows 10,550 cases, of which Santa Cruz concentrated 74.4% of 7,850 reports, and recalled that in Santa Cruz Hospital the capacity was expanded at all levels to facilitate the care of the sick, with the delivery by the government this week of 151 health items to strengthen the hospital response, also said Terrazas. Brazilian authorities stepped up the fight against illegal mining on the Yanomami indigenous land, where many clandestine gold prospectors accused of unleashing a humanitarian crisis are refusing to leave the region. Teams from the government environmental agency IBAMA and the Federal Highway Police were deployed to find and arrest those engaged in mining activities in the protected territories. The illegal miners have been accused by Yanomami leaders of physically abusing women, as well as polluting their rivers with the mercury they use to separate the gold from the sediments. During these operations, they captured some miners who were in an improvised camp deep in the Amazon. The government of Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva issued in January a state of health emergency decree for the territories where the Yanomami tribes live.
We will now begin to neutralize these fronts in the interior. We have established the control bases to curb the logistical supply for illegal activities in the 2 main rivers, and now we are beginning the next phase of the operation, which is to attack these mining fronts, disrupting and neutralizing them in the most remote areas of indigenous land.
Argentinian President Alberto Fernandez confirmed his nation, together with Mexico, Brazil, Colombia and Cuba, are preparing a regional agreement to control inflation. The agreement contemplates a summit between the leaders of these nations, scheduled on March 17th. It will also establish a system to exchange sensitive products between the participants aimed at facilitating imports. The Argentine president described the exchange mechanism as a type of clearing products and mentioned as an example that if Argentina records significant increases in an item, such as clothing, it could turn to one of the partners, such as Brazil, to obtain it at a lower price for a given period in exchange for another more affordable item locally, such as soybeans. In Brazil, the death toll after the rains on the northern coast of Sao Paulo rises to 65. So far, 55 people have been identified and released for burial, including 18 children. The figure was confirmed by Sao Paulo's civil defense. The entity specifies in a statement that there were 64 deaths in São Sebastián and one in Ubatuba, and the identified bodies were delivered for burial. The state government says it is still looking for the safe land, in addition to the 3 already chosen, to start building houses for the victims left homeless, as the priority is to help the victims and attend to the more than 1,150 displaced and 1,290 homeless people. Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Italy, authorities continued the search and rescue operations on Monday after the shipwreck off the coast of Crotone on Sunday that left missing asylum seekers. So far, 63 bodies have been recovered and 81 people have been rescued, 22 of whom had been admitted to a hospital in province of Crotone in the northern region of Calabria. The search operations are being carried out by the Harbor Master's Office and the Guardia di Finanza, and from the early morning hours, divers and helicopters are also being used, as many more victims are feared. Survivors explain that the boat came from Turkey coast, carrying about 200 migrants on board coming from Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan and Syria. On Monday, the foreign ministers of New Zealand and Japan met in Tokyo to strengthen security ties and collaboration in the Pacific region. New Zealand's Foreign Minister Nanaia Mahuta, who will remain in Tokyo until next Wednesday, met her Japanese counterpart Yoshimasha Hayashi to discuss deepening bilateral ties towards realizing a free and open Indo-Pacific, to maintain and develop free and open international order based on a new national security strategy stemming from a security information sharing agreement. The two leaders have also agreed to work closely to support priorities in the Pacific region in areas such as climate change and maritime security towards regional resilience and cohesion.
Our discussions have underlined that we share many of the same concerns about security trends in the Indo-Pacific. We are committed to deepening our security partnership to help protect peace and the rules-based order in our region and beyond. To this end, we welcomed good progress on negotiations towards an Aotearoa New Zealand-Japan Security Information Sharing Agreement.
Now we move on to other topics. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky dismissed the commander of the so-called Combined Forces operation in Donbas, Eduard Moskalyov, who had been appointed on March 15th last year. Ukrainian authorities issued a statement on the matter but did not specify the cause of determination. Moskaliev's dismissal comes as heavy fighting continues in Artyomovskov, a key city of the Donetsk People's Republic, which has besieged on February the 1st by the Russian army. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces on Saturday blew up a dam at a reservoir near Artyomovsk, and so far there are flooding reports in northern parts of the city. And the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu declared that the nation is ready to expand the military operation in Ukraine to neutralize the weapons flowing into the country from the West. The Russian minister outlined the conditions for a widening of Moscow's military operation in Ukraine, explaining that potential advances are directly tied to Western arms deliveries to Kiev. Russia has repeatedly urged Western states to stop pumping Ukraine with weapons, maintaining that the continuous flow of arms will only prolong the conflict rather than change its ultimate outcome. On the other hand, Kiev has repeatedly demanded more and longer-range weaponry from its Western backers, insisting that such systems are needed to push Russian troops out of the territories Ukraine claims as its own. And the Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed on Sunday his allegations about the involvement of NATO in the conflict in Ukraine and said that the aim of Western countries is to divide the Russian Federation. The Russian president stated that NATO's arms supplies to Ukraine can be considered as participation in the conflict because the alliance does not receive money for it. Therefore, Moscow considers that the West has become a direct ally of Kiev's crimes. Putin also said that his administration is opposed to the unilateralist model promoted by the United States, in which it seeks to suppress other world powers' poles. A delegation of senior Arab parliamentarians met with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in Damascus to discuss the country's return to the Arab world. The heads of the Iraqi, Jordanian, Palestinian, Libyan, Egyptian, and Emirati Houses of Representatives, as well as representatives from Oman and Lebanon, traveled to Syria as part of a delegation from the Arab Inter-Parliamentary Union. In this sense, Iraqi Parliament Speaker Mohammed al-Habouzi reaffirmed Arab nations cannot accomplish their goals without Syria, and Syria cannot do the same without the support of the Arab environment. The delegation expressed their hope for Syria to return to the bloc. On Monday, the Sahrawi people celebrated the 47th anniversary of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. The Polisario Front, legitimate representative of the Sahrawi people, announced the creation of the Republic 47 years ago after the Spanish troops withdrew from the African territory on February 26, 1976. The proclamation followed the invasion of the Kingdom of Morocco, which in November 1975 launched the so-called Green March, coupled with military attacks. Thousands of Sahrawis were killed or disappeared in the operation, and since then the majority live in refugee camps in Tindouf, Algeria, or in the occupied territories. The celebration of the 47th anniversary of the Sahrawi Republic took place amidst clashes with the Moroccan occupation forces and after the celebration of the 16th Congress of the Polisario Front. And TeleSUR keeps connecting the global south, as now you can watch us in 33 African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. Stay with us. Welcome back. An Israeli attack on Palestinian communities in the occupied West Bank killed one person, injured at least 100, and burned several homes. The Palestinian Health Ministry confirmed the victim's name was Simeh Attash, 37, who died after being shot in the abdomen by armed settlers who attacked the village of Satara. Another Palestinian was severely injured with a fractured skull after being hit with stones during another offensive against the village of Huwara, the primary focus of the assaults. In this Palestinian village, Israeli extremists burned and destroyed several cars, trees, and houses under the protection of the occupation forces.
Members of the Congress expressed their solidarity with the Syrian people and the creation of a delegation of the Arab Parliamentary Union to emphasize our support and stand with the Syrian people and continue to provide the necessary requirements to support our Syrian brothers after the earthquake that hit several cities and towns.
And the bombing at a crowded bazaar in southwestern Pakistan killed at least 5 people and wounded 16 amid a surge in violence in the South Asian nation. Authorities stated that no one immediately claimed responsibility for the attack in Burkan, about 600 kilometers northeast of Quetta, the provincial capital. According to the local police chief, Sajjad Afzal, the bomb was triggered to a motorcycle and was detonated by remote control. Apart from the inflicting casualties, the explosion left several shops and the market badly damaged. Meanwhile, Burkan Deputy Commissioner Abdullah Koso also said rescuers took the wounded to a hospital to receive immediate medical attention.
What is happening is the burning of an entire village. This is what they do. Dozens of tents and houses are destroyed and burned. The safe houses that people are sitting in, about 400 to 500 settlers broke in with the army protecting them. They walk freely down the street. The settlers enter about 500 meters into Hawara. At the distance, they burn more than 20 establishments, including shops, houses, and trees. Even the trees were not spared. They burned everything. They burned everything they found.
On Monday, Nigeria's Electoral Commission announced preliminary results of parliamentary and presidential polls that rolled out through the weekend. According to the electoral body, Nigerian presidential candidate Peter Obi was gotten the most votes in Lagos State, one of the paramount ones to define a winner. Obi of the Labour Party got 582,454 votes, just ahead of former Lagos Governor Bola Tinubu, who was running for the governing All Progressives Congress Party, APC. Nearly 90 million were eligible to vote in the elections to choose a successor to President Muhammadu Buhari, with many hoping for a new leader to tackle insecurity, economic malaise, and wedding poverty. Voting on Saturday was mostly peaceful, with scattered incidents and delays in opening some polling stations. To win the presidency, a candidate must get the most votes and also win at least 25% of the ballots cast in the 2/3 of Nigeria's 36 states.
There were a number of irregularities that, honestly, as an organization, we cannot excuse or can no longer tolerate, because it reaches a point where, as a civil society organization who has invested a great deal to build confidence in the process, but we also have a responsibility to hold the Electoral Commission accountable for these irregularities that we have observed. When we have our final report, we will share more details about it, but we know that there are places where the elections did not go ahead yesterday.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.